Hello Kimo-sabes. We welcome you to this September 4th, 2024 edition of 30 with Tony entitled The Economics of Failure. And now, give a great 30 with Tony welcome to our guest announcer of the day. The real Boris Karloff.
This is the real Karloff, your announcer for the day on 30 with Tony. We got the best news, the boss's music, incredible classic clips. So let's get it on Kimo-sabes and dance up a storm.
Well, hi, Kemosabe's. It's Tony D'Angelo. It is September 5th, 2024, out of Domini in the year of our Lord. So happy to have you here on this edition of 30 with Tony. Our subject today is the economics of failure. And before we get into the economics of failure, the folks helping me here, some automated, some real, really wish to thank you for the great kick around we had on last week's show, and more to come, God blessing and God willing, and I believe He is, because right now, information is most critical to you as a person. Put politics aside. I mean, I look at the political world and I see, window dressing on one side in many cases, and farcical nonsense and malfeasance and lying and garbage and scum and incompetence on the other. And right now, information is what's critical to you. But today, I would like to speak to you, and I would like to speak to those people who are listening from the political world or perhaps the media world and watching. Hello, folks. Glad to have you here. And I appreciate your following me, and regardless of what you may think of me. And my job is not to be antagonistic to you, in as much it is to inform you to do the right thing. And also, I'm very grateful to our music contributors that allow us to use the music that we do, and we do get our permissions, and we are very grateful for that at this stage of the game, budget being what it is. So let's get right into the economics of failure. Now, I have been talking for months about how energy, cheap, affordable energy, is so critical to every single thing that we do in this life, regardless of who you are, regardless of what you think, regardless of what your conceptions are or your misconceptions. Everything is made by fuel, and everything is brought to you by a truck. I mean, that lovely, cool electric car, environmentally jazzy and all that. I mean, what do you think the interior's made out of? What do you think the body's made out of, right? Plastics. What do you think plastics are made out of? Fuel, right? It's absolutely incredible, the stupidity and the crap that the political world wishes for you to believe and to imprint on your head. We talked about that this past Tuesday on the Lee Elsey show. People are really commodities when it comes to the stupidity of politics. They really are a stock in trade, and it's sickening. But with that being as it is, today I want to speak to you, but I want to speak to both sides of the political aisle. First of all, there's the lunatic side, and there is the so-called, shall we say, conservative side, who does such a rotten job in articulating what's critical, that we're going to have this, whatever you want to call it, a classroom session. And I'm going to bring to you an economics professor who's going to tell you exactly what's going down and exactly what you need to do if you're interested in winning your election. If you're interested, far as I know, watching some of these campaigns, it's I might think I'm watching a planned outcome. I might think I'm watching the Washington Generals versus the Harlem Globetrotters, or the worst preliminary jobber wrestler ever against Hulk Hogan. I mean, but if you're interested in winning the damn election and changing things, I don't care who you're paying. As far as I'm concerned, 95% of what I have seen you pay is so ridiculously inept. I do not want to give you my contribution dollar to support that. I'd merely be confirming you in your error. Sorry, that's just the way it is. Because why should I give you $1 if you're going to lose? Why should I give you $1 if you're not going to try? Why should I give you $1 if you're not going to do what's necessary in order to win, in order to change things? I don't know. I mean, believe me, I can go out to Route 44 in Pomfret, Connecticut and throw money out in the street and cars would stop and pick it up. I mean, it's money has value regardless of what you may think and what you may say. But apparently the political system seems to think that money is inexhaustible, and the stupidity of money or the stupidity surrounding money is so, whatever the word is, fungible, that it's just like Ralph Cramden, when he found the suitcase of money on the honeymooners on the bus. There's plenty more where that came from. But anyway, I'm going to tell you exactly today what you need to do in order to win the election. You want to win? You want to win? You want to do something real? Be listening, be watching. If you want to be stupid and do the stupid clown show that you've been doing as long as I have watched Connecticut politics, which for me goes all the way back to when I started becoming aware of it, Thomas Meskill, do as you're doing. I mean, it's like, I can't make it any plainer than that. It is too close to the wire to try to deal in, how could I put it, touchy-feely, politically correct sensibilities. I do this because I am concerned about economics. I'm concerned about the integrity of the country to do what I need to do and do what my loved ones need to do, what my clients need to do, my friends need to do. That's all I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about you and your stupid political party in many cases. I am concerned and interested in you if you're going to do the right thing, and if you're going to listen, and if you're going to pay attention, and if you're going to follow along. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get started. Now, what I want you to do, if you would be so kind, is bear with me for a second. And I want to point you to something. This is an article by my friend, Professor Bob Swig at Swig Speak. And I think, and it's not only me, but it's a lot of other people, that Bob has the sense of what's happening for real better, the Connecticut sense and the national sense better than anyone I know, because he's not afraid to tell you exactly what it is. He's not afraid to offend, even though offending is not his intention as such. But his job, as he sees it, as a teacher, as an economics professor, is to tell you the truth, and to tell you the truth in dollars and cents. And where Bob is incredibly effective, and I've known him for years, is he cuts right through the political BS and what the campaign managers are telling the candidates, excuse me, and he cuts right down to the street. That's what I want. I want to know what's happening for real. I don't want to know what's happening in your happy little concept in your head, which usually loses. But anyway, I'm not going to be picking at particular candidates. Believe me, today we'll have a bright line. It's up to you, the voter, to look at these people and say, are they walking along the bright line, or are they being stupid, frankly? Simple as that, and just as difficult. God bless you. Thank you, Charlie Mazer, my 7th grade English teacher. Just going to get a sip of water if you don't mind. And I'd like to look at this article again. A lot of you have seen it, maybe some of you haven't, but I will give this as required reading. And we've heard a lot about Project 2025, and the lunatics and the bird brains go to the DNC and they talk about how horrible this is, and Trump is going to be king forever. I mean, the man's 78 years old, and he is a man in very good shape, but he's not exactly an Olympic athlete. I don't think he's going to live another 100 years. And just this total inane banality that people spew about, how Project 25 is going to be this, how could I put it, this forced coming of this regime where people are going to be tossed to the side of the road, and where the Republican, and this is kind of an aside, where the Republican, including President Trump, has really been kind of inarticulated to say, well, in this package, there are things that are of value, which are A, B, C, but I disavow D, E, F, and that sort of thing. It's, I mean, how can I put it? the Bible, the Christian Bible, the Judeo-Christian Bible, I tend to operate on the belief that God knew more than any one of us because he made the world that we're walking on. But my Bible tells me that the truth will set you free. It's not going to put you in a bag. Well, politics is in this huge bag. But the point being, Project 25, when you hear it in political parlance, is a pure red herring. What is a red herring? A red herring is something, it's an old expression. We used to use this, in school, law school, graduate school, and, we hear our folks use it, which means that it gets a lot of attention, but it doesn't really mean much. It doesn't really matter. And the term Project 25, I guess the new term is dog whistle, but it's not really a dog whistle in as much as it is a red herring. So what? Think what you want. But the real Project 25, political bean brains, get this through your head, is the hope of affording groceries. Because 2025 will be a total and complete economic, social, psychosocial, psychological, socio-economico, politico, religioso, probinistico disaster if you don't hammer on the economics. And in order to hammer on the economics, you got to learn the damn economics. So here I am. I'm trying to teach you. So Bob does a wonderful article here. The Real Project 25. The hope of Americans to afford groceries in 2025. Now, we'll read down a little bit and I'll comment. Bob says, do not know how many people who can survive without eating food. Over the past 4 years, we've experienced runaway inflation under the economically bereft and failed Biden-Harris administration. In economic theory, this inflation is supposedly easing, but it has allowed soaring prices to persist, especially for food. Vice President Kamala Harris, the newly appointed presidential candidate, has stated that she wants to eliminate price gouging at grocery stores through a magical formula of price controls that will somehow lower food prices and mystically make them more affordable. However, we know little about this program other than the classic liberal rhetoric that anyone and everyone in business is evil, especially if they seek to earn a profit to merely pay their bills. Now, Republicans, conservatives, that paragraph talks to you. When the idiots in our state, Bob Duff, Bill Tong, a couple of the others, Martin Looney came out and started to talk about the evil price gouging in grocery stores. And Stu Leonard of Stu Leonard's store was coming on TV, he's still coming on TV, yelling and screaming about there is no price gouging. I'm very, very, very close to closing these markets because I'm making so very little. And he's in Norwalk, Connecticut, the district of Senate Majority Leader Bob Duff. I mean, there is so much non-reality here that it's shocking. Now, what the Republican does in this state, and I'm really talking globally here, but what the Republican does in this state, as he says, well, let the business people figure it out. But ladies, gentlemen, it's a lot more than that. The base of why prices are high are fuel, energy. And with your namby-pamby, pitter-pat energy policy of, let's use a little surplus. Well, guess what? Surplus only lasts until the surplus is over, right? It's like if I have 3 boxes of crackers in my cupboard and, I go binge watching, some show I really liked in the 1960s, like Peyton Place. The women were gorgeous, frankly. But, and I get to my last box of crackers. I got to go out and get more. And what if the store doesn't have crackers? Because they can't deliver crackers because the store's going out of business and the fuel of getting the damn crackers is too expensive to get the crackers there. But I kind of, mixed a whole lot of stuff there, but I think you're getting the idea. But that all said, energy must be affordable and it must regenerate. And the Trump energy package, now this is not a commercial for Donald Trump, but it baffles the hell out of me that every single Republican running in this state, to my knowledge, is not banging the drum for the Trump energy package. Now, I don't care if it's the Mickey Mouse energy package. I don't care if it's the Mickey Mantle or Superman energy package. It is the only package that will sustain everything we need to do. We do need to do renewables. We do need to do AI. We do need to do new generation until such time as we could get these other things wrong. But they never do that. They think they're just going to somehow get to this thing of, well, we don't want to look like we're against climate change. Well, like I said to Lee Elsey a couple of weeks back, this is like, you and me sitting in a boat and the boat is sinking. And you're sitting there bailing away, trying to keep the boat afloat. And I'm sitting there using, cleaner on the sails. The political system does not understand priorities at all in the least. And you, the voter, I mean, I could be sitting here on Thursdays and Tuesdays screaming my guts out, which I intend to do for as long as, is necessary or useful. I got to ask myself, how long is useful if people just don't get it? But basically, I can do that. But, you guys need to do it, a lot more than I do because there's a lot more of you. But that said, the target here has got to be against, when they talk price gouging, you've got to talk energy. You've got to talk fossil fuel. You've got to talk on what would take the cost of everything down. It's like I saw a client called the other day and he said, could you come and see me? I said, well, okay, if I come and see you, because I have to charge travel time. It's only me. And, Lord only knows what you're going to run into. Believe in God for my safety and my protection on the wonderful, beautiful, well-kept, well-maintained, well-patrolled Connecticut highways. It's like, well, the mileage rate is the IRS rate, which is, gargantuan. I said, can we do a Zoom call? I mean, basically, I can adapt to that. You lose some quality, but if that's a delivery of a box of physical crackers, I mean, you can't eat air. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what I got to do to get it through to you. I'm certainly trying my best, but basically, when they talk price gouging, dumbos, consultants, bean brains, people with degrees from places where they probably wouldn't let me cut the lawn, you need to talk fossil fuel and energy and the lunacy of their energy plan. And you need to articulate a better energy plan, and you need to be ferocious about it. And you need to give credit to Donald Trump. Killed me the other day. I like to get my news, and I find my best news on Twitter. And Chris Murphy just tore off on Donald Trump ridiculously. Half-truths, innuendos, lies. I mean, it's Chris Murphy, right? I didn't see one person from the political world pushing back at Chris Murphy. It was all anti-Trump. I didn't see anybody pushing back at pro-Trump. Why? I mean, he is the presidential candidate of the Republican Party. It's like, I mean, if you're not going to support him, are you going to support Kamala Harris? Let's read about her. Okay, let's get in a little bit. You think that was bad? It's going to get worse. Or as they tell us in the Boston Tax Institute, this is as good as it gets, unfortunately. Does the esteemed Vice President, Kamala Harris, realize that her party has mandated above equilibrium minimum wages in many states, eliminating jobs and causing the prices, especially food, to rise? Okay, Republicans. Simple economics that I never hear you guys saying. If you raise the minimum wage to a point where your hamburger is $20, people aren't going to go buy that hamburger. In a very rare occasion, a couple of weeks ago, the person that reads the front part of the newspaper in this particular place, Kathleen D'Angelo, said, I am taking my husband to lunch. How about that? Well, there's only one husband. That husband happens to be me. This was a very, very good diner in central Connecticut. 2 sandwiches, cup of soup, 2 sodas. And it was $41. And then I left the girl a $10 tip. I mean, it's like, Why is it so high? Because of all these things we've been discussing. The biggest bugaboo against the small business person, Republican, is the cost of fuel. Democrat, you're an idiot. But Republican, you should know better. Okay, let's move on. Does she understand that the cost of the grain to feed the chickens has doubled over the past years? Now, I've got firsthand information with that. I did ask Kathleen Pearl D'Angelo what she's paying for chicken feed. I just exist here, frankly, some days. And she told me she's paying 10% more this year. Now, we only got a few chickens, that listen, it's not recreational chickens. It's you work real hard with these chickens. I mean, she's working her brains out, and then she gives the eggs away to her family, and occasionally I'm able to, bless some friends with them. People that couldn't otherwise afford farm eggs. Thanks, morons. This is what you've done to us. And the cost of this does go up. Now, multiply that if you are a producer. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Does she know what a profit margin is? Of course she doesn't. She probably can't balance her checkbook. That's when she's sober. And how unchecked and barbaric retail shoplifting can eliminate profit margins. You hear very little about that in Connecticut. I'm sure we're shoplifting free in Connecticut. Like I was in the Meriden Mall, and I'm sure the department store there has never, ever, ever experienced any sort of shoplifting whatsoever. I mean, heck, I saw a guy riding around the parking garage with stolen plates, one from one state, one from another, basically looking for cars to jack, and looked at me really disappointed because I took my 15-year-old Black Beauty and parked it up against the curb so he couldn't get the catalytic converter. I mean, it's like if you're going to make a fight, Republicans, the fight is here, basically. Why aren't you making it? Are we talking the Washington Generals versus the Globetrotters? I'm just going to get another sip of water if you don't mind. Does she have any clue whatsoever that the increase of energy are a direct burden on the cost of goods and services and their delivery? Of course, she doesn't, but you do, and you watching do. And then we go on to all of the people in the Democrat Party who somehow are somehow are millionaires and billionaires, but they're crying for the poor. And let's look at some of these notables. King Ned Lamont, the unaccountable, Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom, Richard Blumenthal, Rosa DeLauro. And, the light's got to go on here that these people are getting rich, and, you're sitting there in poverty in Bridgeport and New Haven, and somehow you think these people are keeping an eye out for you. Anyway, I don't know what to tell you. And Bob has a very good part here on price controls. I am old enough. I don't think any Republicans are for price controls. I really, show me the turkey who says, I'm a Republican and I'm for price controls. But I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on that. But I am old enough to when I had a job as a kid being an usher in the movie house in Stamford, the Ridgeway Theater, and I would occasionally clean the theater and things like that. And I went to my manager and said, you think I could have another quarter because my friend is making per hour because my friend is making another quarter, and I'm doing a good job, aren't I? And he said, look, I'd like to give you another quarter, Tony, but I cannot because the government is prohibiting me from doing so. Do you see how that would stifle innovation? See, because then it comes to a whole thing of, well, what can a business charge? And it's like, do I have to fix my prices here? And how do I know that my suppliers, and believe me, a lot of my suppliers, I don't know if you'd want them washing your 15-year-old car with soft soap and a sponge, but unfortunately, they're the best ones in the market. How do I know they're playing on the up and up? And I mean, do I get squeezed? And other small businesses get squeezed. It is such an idiotic idea, failed on numerous occasions. It's communism. This is where 10 Russians walk in a grocery store to fight over one can of coffee. But, it's, did you ever seen Moscow on the Hudson with Robin Williams? It's exactly the way that is. But that's Where Republicans need to do a much better job is talking about this and beating it, and if necessary, embarrassing people. You could stop with the bipartisanship. We're talking life and death here, people. We really are, basically. Now, one thing Bob says, if Jimmy Carter, who was the president in the 1970s, had these price control things, completely lost control of the economy. And when President Reagan took office, he got rid of them, and he started to encourage the auto industry to build, because he said, look, I'm not going to regulate the cost of fuel. Do your best. And this is the generation when Chrysler Corporation, very, very, very few people in the automotive world, if you like Fords or Chevys or Chrysler, yeah, I get a kick out of them too. They're a lot to own these days, these antique cars. I do marvel at their beauty, and I doubly marvel at the good folks who bust their heads open to have these really fine cars that are just a treat for us to see and watch run and that sort of thing. But very few people in the automotive industry had brains. Henry Ford of Ford was a perfect example. He was just a son of or grandson of the founder, who was a very bad drinker and failure. And Robert McNamara, Robert McNamara was the president of Ford Motor, and who was tapped by the Kennedy administration to be the Secretary of Defense. And without the influences of my man, JFK, thrust us headlong into the Vietnam War. You get the drift of kind of what's happening. And my older brother, my late older brother, was in that industry, executive role. A lot of incompetence, a lot of drinking, a lot of corn. In many cases, the automobile industry wouldn't survive but for government intervention. Got even worse in 2008. I mean, what Rick Wagoner did to GM, and what Bob Nardelli, whom they still put on TV. Personally, I think this man should be incarcerated for what he did to Chrysler, did to the automobile industry, is over there to drive it into the ground and drive the stock into bankruptcy and drive the note holders into worthlessness, is absolutely beyond belief. But one bright/brilliant man in the automobile industry was Lee Iacocca of Chrysler, and he developed a car called the K car that was very popular, that could had a wagon frame, had a sedan frame, it was front wheel drive, had a really cool convertible, and these cars just ran and ran and ran. They were simple cars, but it was what America wanted. The demand met the supply. And it was, go back and look at some of those Lee Iacocca commercials from the 1980s, and how enthusiastic he was getting people to work at Chrysler, because he would, longer story, he would walk around and give pep talks. Occasionally he took Reagan through a couple of times, and Reagan would stop and give pep talks. You see, so it's just like the enthusiasm kind of followed the product. Where I have said, in a little bit of an aside, it's my belief, I don't know how many more times I'm going to mention this, that Donald Trump would personally love, in my estimation, to come to Connecticut. He's dotting all over the map now. He's getting that vision that this is going to be a close race, and a vote is a vote is a vote. But, where's the enthusiasm for him to come? Or are people ashamed of him to come, and they want to pretend he doesn't exist? I mean, basically, the man creates excitement, like him or not. Just saying that factually. But that all said, when Reagan deregulated fuel, excitement happened. Economic production happened. Energy happened. And not fuel energy, but fuel energy deregulated, caused supply to increase, the market to come down, supply, demand, economics completely off of the radar screen of just about any politician I've ever run into. And good stuff happened. This is what you need to do in order to win, folks. And if you're not going to do it, you're going to lose. And if you're going to lose, stay out of my face. I have other things to do, rather than to sit there and hope somehow you win. Anyway, hey, tough stuff. It's true. Now, when we look at what's going to happen, Bob goes on here, talks about the Harris good reading about her copying the Biden agenda, more on the president's price gouging czar office and what that's going to look at. But moreover, what I want you to focus on, and this is where Republicans need to do a much better job. I never see it. If I read one more article on, civility and bipartisanship, I might start screaming. I'm thinking something much worse. There was a time there's never a time to be uncivil. There's never a time to be violent, but there is a time to yell and scream against right versus wrong. What the liberal and the Democrat and the lunatic and the bird brain and the idiot want to do is hand you this green, wonderful utopia, lovely world, that everything fits together. The cities will magnificently be like the golden streets. I mean, look at any city in Connecticut. What do you think is going to happen? Better? I mean, I was remarking actually to George Colley, I believe it was last week, about when I was involved with New Haven Savings Bank in the late 90s, and John DeStefano was mayor, a Democrat, but John kept the city of New Haven spotless. He had the ambassadors showing people where to go, neatly dressed, neatly mannered. Their offices were in my building, and I felt so safe having them because they were around 24 hours, and they also had the clean team cleaning up. Now you go there, it is such a disgusting and decrepit and inept mess. Do you think somehow the burden will shift and the world will become wonderful once again? Please, if you think that, and if you don't say anything about that, you were more of the problem than I could imagine possibly ever. But basically, what will happen is if this Harris gets elected, God help us all, and starts to, whatever concepts she's going to understand, probably as much or little as Biden, and these things take hold, as things become more collapsed, we're going to see all the stupidity coming out of the Connecticut Dem Party. We're going to see if there's any surviving Republicans, faint opposition. We're going to see the platitudes coming from King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable. We're going to see the snide attacks by the Connecticut Senate Dems and Bob Duff talking about, the achieving equity, the evils of MAGA, the Connecticut comeback, and aren't you happy you don't live in Texas, Florida, North Dakota, or something like that? And what the hell does that mean to some mother that can't afford milk, eggs, and bread or medicine? I mean, this is what it comes down to. This is basically what it comes down to. Now, do you think I look at Donald Trump, if you're like, oh, you're a Trump supporter? Well, if you think I look at Donald Trump and look at every single thing he's ever done and think he's the most wonderful guy on earth, regardless, I don't look at, quote unquote, the things that aren't going to impact my role here as a business owner, citizen, friend, family member. I can't control people's personalities, but I do want somebody who will do the task. Like, for example, if I get on a city bus, and I don't ride much anymore, or an airport bus, I don't care about that person's political beliefs. I just want them to get me to the terminal on time and safely. And if they could help me with the bag, great. And if they do, they get a nice tip. I mean, we've got to learn to separate people's personalities from their effectiveness. And if you are a political consultant and you're either afraid of a personality or you're generating a personality, you need to be called out for who you are, shamed, and criticized, and that comes from you guys, my viewers, my listeners. You've got to look at them and say, stop with the idiot nonsense. We're talking about really critical mass. Now, Bob goes on here and he says, to avoid the scenario, get rid of the Democrats. And I got to agree with him. It's a gang of multi-millionaire bureaucrats who have no understanding of economic reality whatsoever. And all you have to do is look at it. But basically, we'll stop the share here. If you want reality, which is what we need right now in 2025, what is reality? What is the economics of success? Freedom to have your business, low taxes, safe environment, clean municipalities, cities you could go to and actually enjoy the resources in these cities. I'm watching something last week. Guy in Langer's Delicatessen in Los Angeles, where there used to be a few years ago lines of people wanting to get in and have the pastrami sandwich, the best pastrami in the whole dang world. Now he can't get people to come. And why can't he get people to come? Because it's a sewer. I mean, MacArthur Park was beautiful. I used to walk MacArthur Park, and they tried cleaning it up, and everything's out of control again. And Karen Bass, the mayor, who's a total and complete idiot, is sitting there wringing her hands saying, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. And he's like, well, I'm going to leave, and I'm going to get the hell out of here because you have no idea what you're doing, you stupid fool. And that's basically what it is. That's what we're talking in 2025. We're not talking personality politics. We're not talking about we're going to campaign as great conservatives, but somehow we're not going to talk about Donald Trump. We are talking about life and death going into 2025. We're talking about America versus some crap mess. And if you don't see that, if you don't understand that, if you won't hook the wagon, the little pitiful wagon that is Connecticut, to something much greater and much more useful to which is what we actually need in this environment of safety, affordable energy, production, well-being. RFK talks about well-being. I thought about this. We're talking about this on the Lee Elsey show. If I'm a person of any age and I'm physically able, I'm able to think for myself, I'm able to make my own living, I'm able to help others, employ others, build things for myself, cook for myself, keep myself safe, and keep things together on my own. My need for a political figure or for politics and politicians is greatly diminished than somebody that can't do any of those things. So I'm not going to vote for somebody, and I'm not going to support somebody who is opposed to my doing that. Or, the freedom of speech. Look at Brazil. They don't want you on Twitter. I mean, what do you think President Harris is going to do? Numbskull, Republican, idiot, who's out there talking about on Twitter, well, I'll never vote for Donald Trump. Well, guess what? If you have President Harris, she's not going to let you talk about anything because they want freedom of speech, but they want to be the ones speaking. Like my father used to tell me as a kid about Adolf Hitler. Hitler didn't want much. He just wanted peace. He wanted a piece of this and he wanted a piece of that. This is what it's coming down to. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're a young person and you're wanting to do something, you need to be fighting for an environment where you can do something, because the political party wants you to depend on them for your needs because somehow they know more than you. Maybe it's 80-20, but you find very few Republicans that are talking about deregulation, the Trump energy plan, frack, drill, and coal and nuclear, whatever it takes, because right now we're a critical mass in this country. If we have low energy, we can watch the environment. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. But if we have low energy, we will attract investment rather than driving it up. Look, Connecticut. What comes into Connecticut other than pass-throughs and garbage? Or if a business does come into Connecticut, it's something that should be abolished. Department of Economic and Community Development is bankrolling with your money. You see, your tax money bankrolls all this failure, all this garbage, all this mess. And I'm getting tired of it. And I'm also getting tired of Republicans that aren't dealing with that. Price gouging should be met with energy. Safety should be measured with the border. It's not hard. I mean, you can't go through life afraid to offend, because if you somehow govern, I don't want you to be a namby-pamby, because, what's the point? What's the point? I understand how the Democrat is, but I think Danny Marisi was telling me this, and he had a very good point. The milquetoast Republican is more dangerous than the Democrat because he's actually in your camp, and it's true. It's I knew enough combat veterans in World War II, and they would say that some officers were so hated that they didn't fear the Germans or the Japanese. They feared the soldier walking by and like letting a grenade go. Oh, sorry, going up. But it's basically, it was the guy in your camp you had to be concerned of. But that's as clear as I can make it, and I hope I did, because it just dawned on me earlier this morning how critical this all is, and really America is in a fight for its life, and if it doesn't sustain now, I hate to think what will happen, but you can change that, and that's why I'm here. It's Tony D'Angelo here on 30 with Tony. We'll be back with the rest of the show right after this. Well, thanks, Kimasabi's. Thanks for staying with us. Kind of an aside, last show I mixed up the music a little bit. I'm learning. I'm learning. It's difficult for me to come out of my music era. People will send me music and say, "Hey, play this," and "Hey, play that," and I really have to familiarize myself, to a large extent because for me, as far as listening to whatever you want to call it, I'll use the term popular music or rock pop or top 40 or whatever. The day the music, just to give you a little line of demarcation, the day the music died for me as such was when WABC 77, which was the music radio station in New York, still broadcasting on 770 as a how could I put it, a news talk station and a fine news talk station in many respects, went from music to talk. And that was 1982. So it's difficult to put me back, put me ahead of 1982, but sometimes I can do it and other times I can't, but I'm learning. So today we're picking up the music and I hope you'll like it. Always appreciate suggestions. Please don't get angry with me if I don't take your suggestion right away. But if you want to do requests and say, I really, really, really want you to play it, yeah, I'll get it on the show for you. That's my promise to you. Probably the worst promise I ever made because I like the music I give you, but we'll find spots to at least spot the music for you. That all said, I am of the belief, how could I put it? I think the danger of society. Now, okay, let me take this back to the beginning. My Bible tells me to forgive. And forgiveness is important because if you carry around grudges, it affects you. It affects your mental health. It affects your health. It affects your well-being, your outlook, and it makes things bad for you. But the point of forgiveness, and you get into the Bible, which I don't enough, is to relieve you of the burden. Now, what forgiveness does not mean is to let somebody come and do the same thing to you again when they haven't changed and you have and you've moved on. You have to protect yourself. And a lot of people have that confused and call you all kinds of names when people will come and do something to me or try to do something to me, and then they might realize what they've done. And they'll say, do you forgive me? And I say, of course I forgive you. And what they expect from me is an acceptance of where I was accepting them before, and I'm very reluctant to do that because I know they themselves, even though they may be sorry, have not changed. And because if you get to wreck it once, that's on you. If you get to wreck it twice, that's on me. But that all said, politicians of whatever party never want to account for their failures. It's Democrat, here it's like 85-15. But I've been just as hard on Republicans who haven't bellied up and admitted the fault and the people around them trying to protect them from something stupid they did, where people should know the stupid things that politicians do, not because for humiliation's sake, but just so it can be instructive and we don't have to go through this again. But somehow Connecticut never learns the lesson. I don't know why. I really don't know why. More stupid, inane, inept, useless building projects go on. Now, I imagine they're good work for somebody, the architects, the construction people, the engineers, the people bringing the construction supplies and things like that. But, it's all tax money. But how much of that did you see? How much of that did I see? And how much useless building has gone on in this state since time immemorial, to the point where you talk about the economics of failure, where the taxpayer has got to reach in his pocket to do this once again, only for the stupid politician to come back and sell you some other kind of something or other, which this time is going to be the panacea for all else. Allow me to elucidate. Let's go to here. This particularly sticks in my craw. And I'm going to actually, what I'm going to do here, if you don't mind, I have a file open that I want to shut down because that is a file I was working with that I'm not able to share, but I want to give you a little history. Now, whatever you want to call it, my opening, if you could dignify it as such, to the wonderful world of television was in 2007, I believe, when Bob Lazari, my friend and colleague and co-contributor on the Lee Elsey show, my introduction to Lee Elsey, asked me to help him on a show on Channel 14 here in the northeastern part of Connecticut called Monday Night Sports Talk, which was a 10-year journey, and a 10-year journey of a lot of learning and a lot of great things. And, we tried a number of things. Just about everything we tried succeeded. Some things failed. I mean, in the early going, we were going to people in the schools and asking if they would come on, the coaches, and they were always too busy. But yet somehow, when we had the bright idea to let's get on some professional athletes and Hall of Famers and things like that, they couldn't have been nicer to us. So they obviously have a much better sense of appreciation than someone playing floor hockey and, Mizzy Muzzy Junior High School. I'm not meaning to demean scholastic athletics at all. I participated in scholastic athletics, but it was absolutely incredible. You would give people an opportunity to be on a first class broadcast and they would always find something else to do. And yeah, that did stick in my craw a little bit. But that all said, Bob has a lot more stories in that vein. Some of his Friday Night Football stories are legendary as far as how he's been treated on his own time and his own expense, going out to watch Friday Night Football games at the various schools. Covering the broadcast for for some of the networks, and on his own accord, not getting anything for it. It's actually, in a lot of cases, not all, but in some cases, it's actually been pretty disgraceful. That all said, there was a very productive, happy, meaningful, cherished minor league baseball team in our state of Connecticut, in our city of New Britain, Connecticut, known as the New Britain Rockcats. Now, this very, very long story made very, very short. The general manager of this franchise was a gentleman. We spoke to him. We actually had him on the sports show. Bill Dowling, who's a very interesting, I haven't checked on Bill. I hope he's still with us. We had a great show with him. And Bill had worked for George Steinbrenner and during the time of, the rebuilding of Yankee Stadium. And we had a lot of dialogue back and forth, talking about how George would keep the expressway clear to Yankee Stadium by hiring the Black Panthers to clean up the burned out cars and things like that. It really was a treat. But Bill did an incredible job with this franchise, and it was a very active franchise of the Minnesota Twins. Now, if you read down the Wikipedia article, a lot of Major League Baseball players you make the major league, you're a superstar. If you make it, if you set foot on that diamond, you're special. And basically, a lot of people went through there. Now, if you're living in central Connecticut and you're of modest means, like I consider myself to be, and you want to get out and you can't deal with Fenway Park, you don't have the money, you can't deal with Yankee Stadium, or something like that, or there are people that do have the money or they save up for a treat or something like that to go to the ballpark. Minor League Baseball is a great diversion. It is a great community support. It is a source of pride. It is a way to get out and enjoy something different. It is a way for a husband and wife to get out with kids, It does so many good things. Now we can talk about, we've had these discussions. Lee Elsie's a former minor league ball player, what a pittance the minor leaguers survive on. But if you were to tell them, you will not get your pittance anymore, they probably would play for free. That's just the love of the purest sense of baseball. So you had this terrific franchise, community staple, source of pride. I'll go back to the New Haven Ravens, and that's another story of, actually Yale screwing up a franchise. Probably do a show about that. But basically, you have this really good thing. Now, what usually happens with a really good thing in Connecticut? It gets screwed up, right? And the owners of this franchise, the New Britain Rockcats, said, you know what, people own businesses, they've had enough. And they've decided that they are going to move on and get their money's worth and pass it on to somebody. And this particular club was sold to new owners. I think if you read down the article here, you'll get a little bit. A very nice facility, was made in not old, was made in 1996 and constructed. Record attendance, a very good, happy, and positive thing. Actually here, the Hartford mayor says the Rockcats are moving to Hartford, and this goes back to, I'm going to try to do this if I can, if this is still up. And this is something going back 10 years, and that would be Mayor Stewart. And they analyzed this for 17 months. The funding will come from the city, not the state, and the maximum bound amount would be $60 million. In other words, the owners said, this is what's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread for the city of Hartford. We need a baseball team. We need something that's not, Humpty Dumpty little pitiful crud ball New Britain, but we need to put it in the capital city. And then when this happened, now I was the only person to my knowledge, Bob too, Bob Lazari, but I was shall I say, the only analyst on a sports show saying this is a disaster. This is going to end up in hell. The city of Hartford is going to end up in litigation. Hartford is a disaster. The transportation is a disaster. The people of Hartford are going to end up paying for this monstrosity. And I was shunned. I was made fun of. I was all kinds of things. I was called all kinds of names. They were so screwed up with the litigation, the logistics, the stupid mayor signing the contract. 17 months of analysis. You might as well have done 17 months of bridge burning. It was totally, completely. This thing was so failed. They couldn't even get in to the park their first year. They had to play the whole season on the road. And it was a joke of the Connecticut press that didn't call this thing for what it was and actually shame and expose the people that did it. So basically this whole thing is, where's the money going to come from? You have something working, and how could I put it? The enablers that caused this to happen into a disaster, it's like, where's the accountability? Where's the people in the city of Hartford? Where's the people in the state who, of course, will end up, somehow bankrolling this, which of course means your pocket and mine, and nobody said a word. And, this is wonderful. This is great. And if you, if you do this, you're anti this, that, motherhood, God, apple pie, Martian, German, racist, stupid, you name it. Well, let's fast forward 10 years. And I walk into my Pomfret Mart on the weekend, and this is what I see. $55.6 million of this monstrosity is remaining to be paid off by the taxpayers. Who are the taxpayers of Hartford? Well, the business taxpayers are getting the hell out. You got some rental landlords who are being shafted by the city and the state. You've got and the legislatures making it harder and harder for them to rent. City's unsafe. City's a zoo. which is a shame because there's some wonderful people there who want to see good things done. You have nonprofits that, of course, aren't going to pay taxes. And you have, really a place where people don't want to go. And you could say the attendance is good and all this other stuff, but once they've spent their money at the ballpark, are they going out into the city and doing things? Please, God help me, no. So where if I'm a dad with a couple of kids and mom, and it's like Joe and Betty Coed and the kids want to go out and have fun and feel safe and eat a few hot dogs, have some fun and watch the shows between the innings. New Britain, hey, that's great, but Hartford, it's like, hey, Dad, let's go into the city of Hartford. Hey, kid, shut your mouth. So basically, it's this was so predictable as to be insane, and your political figures who are now walking around with duct tape on their mouths, who are responsible for this. Where's Daniel Malloy? Where's Pedro Seguera? Where are these people? The unaccountable has been unaccountable largely. It's like not my thing. The current mayor of Hartford, from what I'm understanding, saying, I will honor the commitment. Well, that's really good. I mean, a lot of people say what they want about the guy, but I'll tell you one thing, that guy wasn't there when this was done. And it's and where does this all end up? On the backs of the taxpayers. And if the city goes broke, guess what? Who's there? You and me, mama. So let's read down this article, Kenneth Gosselin, Hartford Current. It's a wonderful place to go to, and it's I'm not the least bit interested in going. Cost overruns push this thing to 70 million. What the hell do you expect? You watched enough things happen in Connecticut. Something's going to be done like Donald Trump would have built it, good and on time. And clean without issues. I mean, it's very hard to find an issue with a Donald Trump property, right? The man must know something. And it talks about the 55.6 million, which is unpaid. And the current mayor, Arunan Palem, I believe he pronounces his name. He says, well, this is a good thing. And he said, after being separated by parking lots, Hartford's making the investments necessary to bridge the North Hartford and downtown divide to ensure the North End continues to be a central part of the vision of economic development for the future of Hartford people. He's taking your money. He is throwing it into the street, basically. And that's what it is. You're 55.6 million in the hole right now. But yet, you had this whole clown show, and we used to go through this on our Monday night sports talk show, and everybody there with shovels, and isn't this a great thing? Where are these characters now? Where are these bird brains? They all robbed you. They all took your money. And that's the whole thing in politics, the zero accountability for stupid decisions, with our current governor being the leader of that. This city councilman of the Working Families Party said the stadium has not generated the economic development spinoff and tax growth that was used to justify the city financing. It's not in any way that we can measure help the city's coffer. His name is Joshua Mictum, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's something that's going to take value away for another 20 years. It's a generational black eye in terms of funding the necessary services. It's funny to me, in my old age watching it, that when the Working Families people and the conservative people are saying the same thing. Anyway, so the Yard Goats, of course, did not return a call seeking comment. And how do you explain this? You're better off keeping your mouth shut, I guess. So here we are, and here is and goes into the whole bloody history of what happened. Luke Bronin, who was the mayor, he settled the lawsuit, and wonderful thing, sending up the flag. Should have been done years ago. And development has resumed the second phase of apartments in a parking garage around Duncan Park. Well, you're going to park and have an apartment. You feel safe going to the ball game? I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. More money being spent. The Connecticut way is not to cut the arm off of the growing cancer. Actually, I think we could stop the share, and I'm going to reiterate that. The Connecticut way is not to cut the arm off of the growing cancer. The Connecticut way is to build around the cancer. So as the cancer gets bigger, the other things can get bigger around it. I've seen this time and time and time and time again. So Pedro Segura, Daniel Malloy, all the people that were involved, the owners that brought this thing here and dumped it on the taxpayers, King Governor Ned Lamont, the unaccountable, who did absolutely nothing other than going to the stupid ballpark with your Grateful Dead shirt. And to all of you, and to all of you people and you Republicans that didn't criticize this thing and demand that it not be built, this bud's for you. You all deserve really one big beer shower in the bleachers for the crud you have foisted upon Connecticut once again. It's Tony D'Angelo. We'll be back with the close of the show right after this. Hate to say I told you so, I did.
Hello, fun seekers. Since we like to mix fun with business, please enjoy another video classic clip, courtesy of the producers of 30 with Tony.
To honor our guest announcer of the day, the real Boris Karloff, we have for you today the trailer for the 1931 feature film Frankenstein. Directed by James Whale, Frankenstein is a classic horror film based on Mary Shelley's 1818 novel. The story follows Dr. Henry Frankenstein, a scientist obsessed with creating life. With the help of his assistant Fritz, he assembles a creature from body parts of deceased individuals and brings it to life using electrical devices. However, the brain used in the creature is from a criminal, leading to unintended consequences. The creature, portrayed by Boris Karloff, is initially gentle but becomes violent due to mistreatment and fear. After escaping, it accidentally kills a young girl, prompting the villagers to hunt it down. The film explores themes of ambition, creation, and the consequences of playing God. Frankenstein was a commercial success and has had a lasting impact on popular culture, with its imagery and characters becoming iconic in the horror genre. And now, the trailer.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
When this dead hand moves, the monster created by a man they called mad is turned loose to strike terror into the hearts of men. To shock women into uncontrolled hysteria.
Elizabeth!
To prey upon the innocence of children. This is the story you've heard about, talked about. The spine-tingling, blood-chilling story that stuns your emotions. Frankenstein.
Don't touch that!
There's a place I eat lunch every day. Soon soon as I get there, the jukebox starts to play. I can't even eat my lunch in peace. Music makes me get on my feet. I just can't stop dancing. Oh no, I don't wanna stop. I just can't stop dancing. Oh no. Music has a strange effect on me. It doesn't matter wherever I may be. Whenever I hear a drummer play that funky beat, I drop everything and get out of my seat. I just can't stop dancing. Oh no, I just can't stop dancing. Oh no. Let me put this hamburger down. I don't want no mouth. I want to dance. Oh yeah. Sure enough grooving now, y'all. Look at me. Oh yeah. Oh no. Can't make me stop.
with Tony Thursdays, 3 Eastern on Twitter.
Well, thanks, Kemosabe's. Thank you for staying with us, and hope you enjoyed this edition of 30 with Tony. And you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to make yourself a committee of one and hold these people accountable for what's so critical coming to your doorstep in 2024 if you don't push back against it. But anyway, always time for a little joke. Someone walked up to a Democrat socialist politician and said, "Is socialism a science?" Remember, the whole thing followed the science. And the Democrat socialist politician said, "Yes, of course it is." And the person said, "Well, you know, that makes sense, because if it really were a true science, it would have been tested on mice first." It's Tony D'Angelo here at 30 with Tony. Thanks, Kemosabe's. Thanks for staying with us. Really do appreciate you. We'll be back next week with an even greater show. So long.
Thought so much love could feel in a little bag.